Hello, everyone. This is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I'll give a conservative perspective about the world around me. All right, so feedback is immensely important. Feel free to reach out. The best way to do so is through email. I can't stress again, with Christmas on its way and all other holidays, if you want to share any holiday stories or you have show ideas, feel free to reach out. So some of the audio platforms that I'm on Speaker, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and pretty much everything. So it won't be hard to find me. And also on YouTube, feel free to fill up the comments, like, share, and also subscribe. Be greatly appreciated. Okay, so you know how when you're looking at something and you're wrapping it up at the final stage of it, you don't realize that you overlooked a portion of it. So this in its way, I guess you can say, is a continuation, but it's an extension on specific holiday movies. This episode is going to be about the fan theories of It's a Wonderful Life and A Nightmare Before Christmas. Here we go. All right, so briefly here, to set up the stage, and I'll just start getting into the facts here. These two movies are very, I don't want to pause for too long here. I would say memorable in their own right for different reasons. So It's a Wonderful Life, it hones into the aspects of the traditional values of what you think about and what you get from and what should be taken from Christmas movies. However, A Nightmare Before Christmas is the antithesis of that. It's the opposite of that, okay? And it's quite interesting when movies like this get in the realm of being, especially when you get in the mainstream aspects of everything, which Tim Burton, even though he pegged himself as the avant-garde, goth, a submersive person, but in reality, in the situation, it's not hard how he was able to, Disney was in the realm of doing obscurity anyway, but it helped that at one point in his career, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember this from seeing this some years back, that he did work as an animator on Disney, particularly with the Turner and Hooch, not Turner and Hooch. It's that one. It was made in the 70s. It was an animated film about two dogs, and y'all know what the ones that y'all know, but it was that neat. He went on and on talking about how, it was a nightmare for him, so to speak. And so how that translates for. Now they say that this isn't particularly him directing it. He had his hand in it, with The Nightmare Before Christmas. But, it's just everything that the attention to detail had his signature all over everything. Even though he, if I'm not mistaken, did not direct this. He did not. There's a different measure with animation, especially with clay animation. He didn't have his hand on as the director role. So there are also a lot of calls to this, to where it makes a whole lot of sense for A Nightmare Before Christmas to really bring a lot of interest to people, because does tie into the paganness of what was known and understood. If with the history people out there, and then this is just one simple opinion here to talk about those tides of wonder about what it might have been like with the aspects of commemorating and thinking about those regal past of paganism, and then how that translates, how's that different from Halloween versus Christmas, all these sort of things. And so with this said, here we go into the facts of everything here. Okay, so first I'm going to start out with It's a Wonderful Life. Okay, so bear with me here. It's quite a lot of information, okay? So, Okay, it says several fan theories. Now, this is the AI generated response, and I'm going to delve in deeper. So, it says several fan theories about It's a Wonderful Life explores the film's deeper, often darker interpretations beyond its traditional feel-good Christmas message. One prominent theory suggests that George Bailey was actually dead throughout the whole film. So, what this means is that there's one scene in It's a Wonderful Life where him and his brother, they're both children, and it's that one scene. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about, and if those younger crowd out here who listens to me, or if you're there, if you happen to stumble upon this, you listening, welcome to you. But anyhow, they're on a lake, and it's icy lake. And so this builds up the tension, and his brother falls through, and he pulls him out. And they say with this fan theory, this is supposed to be he didn't survive, and this movie is playing all these things out. So let's see here. It says, having died saving his brother Harry from drowning as a child, and the entire narrative is a vision presented to his spirit by an angel in the afterlife. The story is proposing that George's journey through the alternate reality where he was never born is not a dream or illusion, but a spiritual intervention to help him repent and appreciate his life. So that was really the focal point a lot of times with older classic movies. And it really drove in what is the true message of Christmas, Christ, of spirituality, of being benevolent and understanding that we all as humanity, we all as people and so forth. And then, American values extending out globally, we must remember that we wouldn't have this holiday if it were not for the love and forgiveness and the all-powerful and all-knowing of Christ. And that we in ourselves must do our due diligence to, and particularly when there's undertones into this with older films, do our due diligence throughout, not just throughout the holiday season, extending out throughout our lives. We must remember to be Christ-like, have those qualities, and then extend that to where it becomes a generational understanding of the season, of what it's all about, what we should do. And And I think, say what you will, about the cultural map, that's just how life goes. Nothing is ever the same. But it's undeniable how movies like It's a Wonderful Life really stay with cultural values, because it is really pinpointing to where it's talking about the reality of the situation of how a moral compass is very important to understand. All right, so another theory interprets the film as a tragic story rather than a heartwarming one, arguing that George's life is defined by suppressed ambition and systematic denial of his dreams, with his sacrifice for others leading to a life of resentment and emotional turmoil. In this view, the alternative reality sequence reveals the truth. The true nature of the townspeople, stripped of the moral fabric George provided, rather than showing a world that would have been worse without him. Now, a more surreal theory compares the film to The Truman Show, proposing that George is trapped in a lifelong, it's just a stage of reality, which is quite interesting. Because I did a show about The Truman Show, funny, some time back, and it's entitled The Truman Show. Check it out. You take the time to look for that and check it on out. So, in reality, what The Truman Show was pinpointing is that nothing is all. Sometimes things aren't what they seem, and then when you find out that you're in a simulated reality or a staged reality, what do you do with that? And so, to translate that to It's a Wonderful Life, I can see how that theory is something that can, be maybe plausible. So, meticulous staged reality show where everyone around him is an actor and the town itself is a constructed set with a sky-colored wall marking its boundaries. The theory suggests that George's memories may have been manipulated after a traumatic childhood accident, and the alternative life sequence was a real-time restaging designed to reinforce his belief in his fabricated reality. So other theories include that the idea of Mr. Potter is a manifestation of Satan, and that Clarence, the angel, was driven to suicide and is redeeming himself by helping others. That is quite interesting. So, and then also, what it stays a lot with people when movies have those undertones of there's an ever driving force of evil, good and evil, weighing for our attention. Some fans also speculate that the film's famous lost ending, where George Bailey gets revenge on Potter, was a genuine alternate version aired on Saturday Night Live and later replayed as a Christmas special. All right, so I'm going to tap into these entitled it's the top 9 fan theories, okay? So this was originally tongue-tied there, I'm sorry. This was originally written in 2018 on Christmas Eve. All right, it says, number 1, George Bailey was dead the entire movie, and it goes in to say that this about what I said earlier. So, the movie story actually begins as per the original script. This the spirit George with his spirit George facing off against the angel atop the bridge of souls. So, angel shows a spirit a vision of life he could have had on earth if he repents, but instead George throws the angel into the brimming deep. Editors ran this scene backwards to create the image of a rescue. So, by this way, the angel's vision, it incepts his way into the angel's vision and takes possession of it. So, declaring himself the richest man in town. And then by saying this theory, I don't know, it's a bit of a bleak take, but you can say that this sort of point of view can be from the modern lens perspective of being, jaded, I guess you can say, a little bit jaded, or maybe struggling with the aspects of lost faith, of having that kind of lens when it comes to this theory. All right, George and Mary are undercover Soviet agents. And then, this goes along with the aspects of when this particular movie was released. This was released around the 40s or so. So this was really so, being a mirror towards, okay, we had the overall elephant in the room, World War II. We're on the brinks of if I'm not mistaken, Korean War or so, in the midst of the shadows. So there's a lot of, and then getting on the road of the 50s, when we get in the Sputnik, and then we get the, vying for a control, and then the space age and so forth, on its horizon. And so, this makes a whole lot of sense to have the military infused theory about the movie. All right, so blowing the lid off the hidden aquatic ops center beneath the dance floor, restricting all commercials to top secret protocol. And it says that it's handing off details and blueprints for plans to subjugate the moon. And so, break it down so y'all understand what I'm saying. So there's a scene in the movie where George and Mary are dancing. They're around. They're supposed to be in high school, so they're live up to this fan theory saying that they're actually just undercover, and so they blew their cover, and it's saying that wasn't just supposed to be just some kind of quirky take or antic to develop the story between their relationship in the movie. No, it's actually supposed to be revealing their repercussions or consequences for breaking their cover. So that's quite interesting. All right, so Mr. Potter is literally a scurvy little spider. So it says, why else would he work so hard to get rid of Uncle Billy's fold-up newspaper? And then they say that which is a spider's big enemy. I'm sorry, tongue-tied this morning. I'm recording it in the morning, but whenever y'all listen, I'm just tongue-tied right now. Is the enemy. So Bailey's building and loans is built atop the Hellmouth. In the famous scene of the mob assailing George Bailey, there appear to be demanding money, but they are in fact demanding mana, a form of great supernatural power in the Australian religions. So, added by the potent spewing black raven of death, George enters a shamanic trance and recounts his visions of where exactly who housed the man and where the man lies. Now, again, I think this is drawing into different alternatives of religion and, reining in on that too. But it's quite interesting, this theory here. Says, number 5 says, a young George Bailey did not stop druggist Dr. Grover from selling a boy poisoning. He stopped him from sending Captain America's serum. So secret operative GOWR wasn't receiving a call about his son dying from the Spanish flu. He was receiving orders from the U.S. government to launch the trial. However, a 12-year-old hearing impaired boy named George Bailey, arguably the best placed asset in history, instead diverted the formula to his boss, Jonan Smith, who will it advisedly tested on itself, resulting to the hideous disfiguration that would cause the world to call him Red Skull. Admittedly, much of this takes place off camera. Bed Falls is a part of the Capra Cinema Universe, the CCU. So Ella Andrews, the figurative heiress, of It Happened One Night, first appears in her escape by jumping off the family's yacht and swimming up the river where George meets Clarence, old maid librarian Mary, and George, what if I had lived storyline goes off to join her wife's Spencer sister in a life of a wisp bachelor life. So I'm going to go a little bit in more depth about other theories. So, says, okay, don't need that. All right, so there's a theory that says Mary's love for George is what caused the Great Depression. So, why is that? It says which is most pivotal in early scenes in It's a Wonderful Life. Mary, which was Donna Reed, and George throw rocks at the long abandoned Granville house and make wishes. So George wishes to see the world, but Mary keeps her wish a secret, only telling him after they're married and settled down that what she had hoped for that night. So Mary's wish came true, but a Redditor by the name of Jimmikin KY points out the reason they're still in Bedford Falls is because George sacrificed their honeymoon money when the Great Depression hit. So technically, Mary's wish created an economic catastrophe. So George was so close to escaping the town that the fate had thrown them back where he wanted to escape from. So Mary's secret wish was that caused everything bad to happen again. So this is just, relaying back to what was already said. So now, that movie Donnie Darko was quite an interesting movie. So that it played with the whole aspects of begging the question: is the main character Donnie Darko is this actually happening to him, or is this just a relived vision of his mental illness? Are we just delving deep, or us as the viewers delving deep into his mental disabilities or his mental breakdown? What is actually going on? And to compare this to It's a Wonderful Life is quite interesting. So let's see this take, and I'm going to end on this. Well, and I'll end on the next one. Okay, so that's pretty interesting too. Okay, so Donnie Darko, Richard Kelly's cult tragedy of a young man coming to grips with his own doom, may very well be a mirror image retelling of It's a Wonderful Life. So Redditor Dive Overseer explains that instead of a middle-aged man meeting an angel who convinces him that he should live, Donnie Darko is about a teenager who gets visited by a demon who tells him that the world will end and everyone will die if he doesn't die first. So the bunny suit wearing demon convinces him, of course, by showing him an alternative reality. Alright, so the film's happy ending is actually incredibly depressing. So what is this about? It says everyone celebrates the final moments of It's a Wonderful Life because George realizes just how much meaning he has and how much the townsfolk appreciate him, all what he has to live for, and they come together in a grand gesture of friendship. And the adorable little girl tells a cute story about angels getting wings. It seems joyful and life-affirming, unless it's in actually the reality of the situation that is disastrous and depressing. So what are they talking about? It says, as that film theory points out, and the video essay we're talking about above. So all George ever wanted to do was get out of Belfort, as I was mentioning. With the fan theory with Mary here. Everything from a gift from his brother, who was able to escape their hometown and become a romanticized war hero thanks to George, to the horrified look on George's face proved that the ending everyone thinks is happy is actually profoundly tragic. Nothing, not even actual prison, will let him leave the prison of his humdrum small town existence. Well, okay, sure. But on the other hand, it's one of those things where I see it like this too. I see it like this too. Okay, which is something that it's a hard lesson to learn, but when you learn it, boy, does your life really wake up and get so much better. Now, there's something to be said in the aspects of truly appreciating what you have, and then making a home. That home is where the heart is, and home is where your family is. And no matter where you are, as long as you have your family and you have love, support, and understanding, you'll be okay. And that's something to consider too. All right, so with this said, I'm going to jump right into the aspects of A Nightmare Before Christmas. Okay. I'll be right back. All right, so here we go. All right. So it says, fan theories about A Nightmare Before Christmas explores the dark past of its characters, often suggesting that their deaths occurred around historical periods like the 1600s. So the 1600s is supposed to be, the advent of getting into its own with the aspects of Gothic and the aspects of Gothic tales and the aspects of that blurred line between science and immoral practices, so many things here. So, coinciding with its trials and scientific experiments. So Jack Skellington is widely theorized to have been buried alive, as his bones are the only remains left, and he is seen holding a torch in flames at the beginning of the film. Sally's creation is believed to involve dismemberment with her stitched together body and detachable limbs, supporting by the idea that she was reconstructed after death, possibly by Dr. Finkelstein. Augie Boogie is theorized to have been skinned alive and stuffed into a sack filled with bugs, with his lair located beneath Lock, Stock, and Barrel's treehouse, suggesting he was buried alive by the gang. So Lock, Shock, and Barrel's deaths are speculated to be linked to their names as it appears. Alright, so other characters' deaths are similarly theorized. Witches were likely hanged and not buried, and most historical executions of witchcraft being involved with hanging. You know, when you get in the aspects of saying witch trials and all of these things. So, I'll go with this. And also to add on to this, additional theories suggest that Jack Skeleton may have been born a skeleton, possibly the son of death in a tomb, which is flexible and ability which gives the insight to why he is flexible and has the ability to sing without a head, implying magical or tune-like origins. The holiday world's Halloween Town, Christmas Town, and others are theorized to be real magical realms created by spirits for humans, which is separate until Jack's journey brought them together. Some fans believe that the film's events were meant to be a singular catastrophe that broke the natural separation between the holidays, and that the worlds may be accessible through dreams or magic. So there's a controversial theory that puts in the proposition that Augie Boogie was a serial killer who consumed children with Lock, Stock, and Barrel, serving them to avoid his next victim. My goodness. So, okay, let me get into a little bit more facts about this. So, let me see. Okay. So, let me go. This one is okay. Let's see. Okay. Those aren't so. So, let's go into Ranker. Says, it's entitled, The Nightmare Before Christmas Fan Theories That Just Might Be True. Says, Jack Skeleton is the Celtic spirit of death. So, Redditor, sorry about all the notifications going off there. So, Redditor, Tiger Torture believes Jack Skeleton to be a Celtic demon. So, Celtic legend speaks of Anaku, a monster of death who appears as a tall, thin skeleton, and a ghost called, forgive me for the pronunciation of this, Dullahan, who has a wide grin and is known to remove his skull from his body. So Jack certainly fits the bill for both of these. So the poster also contends that Jack is the Pumpkin King because he is created from Halloween. So, the Celtic tradition, pagan tradition here of all Souls Day, all Halloween is of that. So, Fear of the Great Beyond. Jack begins the movie with a jack-o'-lantern from a head, and jack-o'-lanterns become a tradition among Celts during their holiday of the Sumerian. Because the lit pumpkin faces would theoretically keep demons away from people homes by making the malice entries, but are believed there were already evil spirits present. So essentially, what you're traditionally supposed to do here, to rephrase that, what you're supposed to do to ward out evil spirits is to have pumpkin faces on. But it didn't work because they were already there, the demonic spirits. So the movie hints at all the ways the characters perish. Hold on, I'll be right back. Yes, baby. Yes, baby. Yes, baby. Like that? Huh? I'll get you another one, okay? Just hold on just a minute. No, please. I want to lay down. Okay, just a minute. All right. I'll be right back, y'all. Be right back, y'all. Okay. Hello. I'm right back here. All right, so let's continue out. Says, user, like I said previously, the movie hints at all the ways the characters perish. And I already said this, but I don't see what more is to say about this fan theory. It says, user at Tickles Something on Tumblr sees hints about the ways in which the citizens of Halloween time melt their ends. While some, like Sally's demise by dismemberment, seem more obvious, a few of their interferences are less expected. So, as it was saying about Lock, Stock, and Barrel, for example, is said to have frozen due to his white skin, blue lips, and choice of devil costume, signifying a desire for heat. Zero, the ghostly pup, is believed to have been electrocuted, as he resembles the whiffs of smoke and his nose lights up, signifying some kind of electric current in him. All right, so it says that Sally was taken apart because she was accused of being a witch. One Redditor presents that this theory in life, Sally was dismembered for being a witch in her life. So this is why she is a ragdoll in the afterlife after her limbs are stitched together. Sally clearly has some sort of precognitive ability, as her vision of a pretty Christmas tree begins a foretelling that Jack's muddying of the Christmas. Let me say that again. I'm sorry, y'all. A pretty Christmas tree burning foretells Jack's muddling of Christmas. So this is again going into the aspects of the witch, quote unquote, abilities. After she sees this, so Sally runs to tell Jack she's had a vision. The fact that she brews a potion to knock out Dr. Frankenstein lends credence to this theory. And also I think that it's, making commentary about the aspects of the real life events of the Salem witch trials and all of these things. So, Augie Boogie, that little so-and-so, which I can't say right now, but that little freak. Okay. All right, so, as I mentioned before, this goes into the aspects of him being a child killer. Disgusting. So, number 5, the tension between Halloween Town and Christmas Town mirrors Burton's relationship with Disney. So Disney may have given Tim Burton his start, but the relationship was far from smooth. When Burton was first hired, his offbeat style made him an outcast, and much of his work remained on the cutting room floor. He eventually made 2 short films for Disney, but was then fired. Their antithesis just didn't mesh well. So YouTubers Screen Rant contends that, or they're stating the evidence that this tension came to be felt, and the differences between the bright, cheery Disney-like Christmas time and this strange and dark world of Halloween Town. All right, so Frank and Weenie, The Course Bride, and The Nightmare Before Christmas are all one long story. The popular theory found all over the internet contends that Victor and Frankenweenie is a younger version of Victor in The Course Bride, and that Victor becomes Jack Skeleton in the afterlife. So these characters physically builds and Bills and Cannon Pals, they all lead to this theory. How they look, how they, their mannerisms and so forth lead to this theory. And to add on top of it, it's quite interesting, the aspects. Big call out to John Solo. He's really good. He's great on YouTube. He went into depth about the aspects of the Course Bride really being a fairy tale that has itself Jewish tradition. And that's quite interesting for Tim Burton to put his hand in that retelling. All right, so in all three stories, the male lead interacts with the dog that has kicked the bucket, and all three pups or ghost pups are roughly the same size and shape. So Augie Boogie was originally Jack's successor. So what does this mean? Says an interesting theory explains the beef between Jack and Augie Boogie was conceived by Redditor Babylon, in which Augie was initially to take over as the king of Halloween Town. They contend that when Jack wished to step down, Augie Boogie was the obvious choice to take over. So his interjections, however, Jack thought it'd be a better way to go. So he had Dr. Frankenstein create the mayor. When the jilted Augie Boogie went after Jack, he got banished to the outskirts of town. This could explain why Augie's lair is so far off the action, and also the reason the mayor is scared of Augie's minions, lock, stock, and barrel. So the citizens of Halloween Town represent all different types of fears. So Redditor UDJ Mocking theorized that all the characters in Halloween Town represent a basic fear, and the most basic human fears have larger roles in their community. So they believe that Dr. Frankenstein represents a fear of aging, Sally, disability, the mayor, social anxiety, Jack, the mighty fear of death. Augie Boogie, by their approximation, represents the fear of the dark, or that which cannot be seen. The less prominent characters, the Redditor believes significant things like fear of losing pets, 0, and the fear of unattended pregnancy, lock, stock, and barrel. Sally is the reincarnated wife in Burton's first stop-motion picture, Vincent. Tumblr user at Screen Names Missing takes the connected movie theory a step further and proposes that Sally is the reincarnated wife of Vincent in Tim Burton's first stop-motion short film of the same name. In Vincent, the boy claims to have ended his wife by burying her, then attempts to revive or build her. This may have been the reason Sally is made of misshaped pieces and appears to have been hastily thrown together. So after perishing, she is reborn in Halloween Town as a lovelorn ragdoll. Alright, so characters who perish in Tim Burton's films land in Christmas Town or Halloween Town. So the theory is based on Frankenweenie's character Bob, who kicks the bucket in that film and appears to be in Halloween Town. Perhaps everyone who passes in Burton's films get reincarnated in one way of these towns. So Bree Thomas penned this story on thethings.com, but it may or may not be their own original idea. The movie is a commentary on cultural appropriation. Okay, here we go again. Okay, look. This again is silly. This is very, I mean, I'm just calling the kettle black, but, everybody has their own opinion, but this is just, when will we get to the point, and I don't know, I'm very hopeful, but what about this notion of sometimes things are what they are, and appreciate that nothing is stolen from somebody, sometimes things are just not stolen from people. Just get over it, quit. And then why does everything, it's just weird to live in. Why would you want to live in have a life? What kind of mental gymnastics is that? And what kind of, this just goes to say, with people who think like that, why they're just terrible people to be around. You just can't stand them. You can't be around them. I mean, you can't. It's impossible. I mean, you can try your best, but it's just hard. Because it's always something that's a problem. And come on. It says, Twitter user at Kinder Source Rex sees lessons about cultural appropriation. Bored with Halloween Town, Jack finds an exciting, erotic land with culture and traditions that are brand new to him. He doesn't understand Christmas, but he knows he wants to take it and make it his own. Jack steals and kidnaps it without a second thought in order to set his plans into action, then dumbs down the idea of Christmas to make it palpable for his fellow citizens of Halloween Town. So the citizens of Halloween Town decide to improve upon this thing they don't yet grasp and ignore the aspects of heading to Christmas Town and Santa Claus himself. They come up with the horrifying shell of what Christmas really is. All right, so the movie about Jack finding Christianity. So according to Redditor U News Leaf 37, Halloween Town is hell. Which, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But that's quite interesting, pinpointing to this. And this theory is really interesting here. And this specific hell is Jack's existing existential crisis, or this is supposed to be that existential crisis here. And Jack's introduction to Jesus and God occurs when he finds himself in Christmas time. But he chooses not to share that part when he tells the citizens of Halloween about his discovery. So Jack sings that the Christmas spirit is invisible, but everywhere. And just because I cannot see it doesn't mean I can't believe it, which could be read as a reference to the blind faith people put in religious figures. So the Redditor backs up the argument further by pointing out biblical quotes, like the references of the angel's speech to the shepherds. Haven't you heard of peace on earth and goodwill towards man? All right, so I'm going to end on this one. It says, Jack Skeleton is a reincarnation of Jack Sparrow. In this theory from a Redditor, a cursed Jack Sparrow and his crew sink to the bottom of the ocean in their ship. 100 years later, someone revives the cursed skeleton crew, and they wash ashore at Halloween Town. Having lost most of their memories, Captain Sparrow and his crew settle into their roles in town, but have existential crisis because they don't really know who they are. So, this again is linking to the aspects of how but Pirates of the Caribbean, drag that in. Sure, why not? All right, so I'm going to end on this. Now, It's a Wonderful Life, Nightmare Before Christmas. As I said before, two very different movies, but they unite in the aspects of how they are reflecting a mirror about humanity. Now, one goes the traditional route, one doesn't. Now, how does this fit in the realm of the aspects of Christmas and its theme? Initially, really, Christmas is supposed to be about the aspects of the spirit of forgiveness and understanding, and also with the atonement of sins too. And so when you have two movies that these fan theories delve even deeper into the aspects of the importance of understanding these lessons and knowing these lessons, they recount how, when it's done quite right, how profound art imitating the humanities of life can really expel upon the overarching meaning of Christ and the teaching of Christ. With this said, I'm going to end by saying, if y'all want to reach out to me about this episode, feel free. If you have comments, questions, concerns, you have thoughts, just feel free to reach out to me. And the best way to do so is through email. Just fill my email box up. It would be greatly appreciated. I appreciate all of you. All right, so this reaches the end. Tune in, turn up. Definitely have a very Merry Christmas and a cheerful New Year. Take care.